get a coach because they're going to lead you to the
Totally.
garden versus the dirt.
Hmm.
And yes, it costs money, but look at it as education, like as if you would pay for college or graduate school or all these other programs. Consider it your education to business. Consider it your education to lead to a journey where you've never been before.
All right. Welcome to The Boost, conversations with people promoting mental health. And I'm so delighted to be here with Margo Masri, who's the owner of Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services. Margo, it's great to see you. How are you?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm glad to get to talk with you again. The first time we recorded, I think maybe last month, I had a audio snafu on my side of things, and it's so kind of you to come back on the show and do a re-record. I feel like you should charge me for your time, but I
Yes.
really appreciate getting to talk with you.
Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we do two things to kick off the show. We do the virtual hug and the shameless plug. So, the virtual hug is tell us somebody or something that you're grateful or thankful for today.
I'm grateful for my daughter. Before she goes to school, she always makes me something. So today, like she makes me my protein shake to start the day. And it just always gives that little boost of like from when you go to sleep to wake up. A lot of people, it's coffee, but the shake just really hits the nail.
Hmm. Gives you the fuel to get going. Yeah, I'm a coffee drinker, but a protein shake is probably a much better idea. So your daughter's doing something to take good care of you.
They're
My
both good. I shifted to this lately. So
yeah.
it just works.
Well, it's I mentioned the coffee after you because last year at this conference that I run, the mental health marketing conference, the breathwork and somatic principles person or advised me. She actually asked. She said, for people who are going to come to this breathwork session in the morning, make sure there's no coffee being served around the area, and make sure they're avoiding coffee. So we didn't get too deep into the why on that, but you know, I don't know. I still drink it.
It escalates the nervous system. That's the main thing. So when you're on an empty stomach in the morning, it escalates the nervous system, which is exact opposite of what you want to ground yourself. But sometimes people could just handle it. So it's really just everyone's own formula. That's what I say too. Everything is like a recipe. It's like you put on the news. Someone told me the other day that coffee was part of your hydration, and I was like, no, dang way. And then he showed me the resource. I was like, I guess so.
There's a lot of water in it. Nice. Well, that's good. That's a justification for me. Yeah. It's like it's part of my hydration. Yeah. I don't know. It's probably, yeah, good 80-90% water and then some coffee. So, so that's good. You're like part life coach, part therapist, part CFO, in the work with your clients, but with the shameless plug, give us a overview and a picture of what you do, how you help your clients, and the company or companies that you're working on or building over there.
Our overview is to help clients around money, business, and tax, and all of the in between. My company was originated around just bookkeeping. However, around following the journey of clients and entrepreneurship, there's just so much more. And what I realized after years and years in practice is that if I really want to make a difference with clients, it was the entrepreneurship component and also the coaching component to really boost business building, to really be able to implement the business growth and tax mindset to actually see it possible. So taking them across the journey was really like, it was just a miracle. I loved it for myself, and I was like, why not help clients too? They love it. And it's just great to see the growth all over the place.
Hmm. And so tell me a little bit more about that specifically with the behavioral health therapist set. Like, what are some of the trends and challenges? What are some of the things they're struggling with when they come in to talk with you? Set up kind of the pain and the problems that they bring to you.
Of course. So a lot of them are coming from working from somebody else to working to them for themselves. There's a huge shift that they feel because they worked for somebody else that they can do it on their own. And then there's this unawareness around what to pay for taxes, how much to pay for taxes, the proper setup. Do they want to pay for somebody? The other thing is business development. There's this thing around just taking on clients, and because marketing could be free, let's say, or a source from insurance, that it's really the best way to get clients. But on the reverse, they're feeling run down, underpaid, and then the imbalance between all the different insurance companies and what they're actually getting. So between that shift of commercial or corporate and then actually running things on their own and really having a business plan, those are the three biggest pillars that I see. And with that, there's a lot of panic and overwhelm under it all. So they want to serve their clients with anxiety, trauma, like all of those different things. But the overarching theme are those three areas. Once you start to uncover what they are for you, and 1% shift in each area comes a long way. I was actually just talking with a client this morning around it, and she has a very high multiple seven figure practice. However, she had this huge disconnect from the numbers. She had a huge disconnect on really the growth. There's multiple offices, and with the multiple offices, it's just where is the profit? Is there profit?
Mhm.
And because of the disconnect from the numbers, she didn't even know which offices was actually growing or are they growing. So it was very hard for her to connect into it, but these slow shifts are really working that create big turnaround. And people don't realize that. So what we did was for her, we did this time audit. And she was like, I don't want to show it to you. And I was like, come on, show it to me. Share
Perfect.
your screen. It's your turn. Yeah, perfect. I was like, come on, share your screen. She was like, no, no. And like, she's very funny the way she'll show up. And I love it. So when she showed up to it, she was not spending her time in area of expertise. And she thought it was saving money, but it was actually costing her money. So we did a total of what those areas were and what it would cost her to hire for those people, for those areas, and then what it would cost her if she spent time in those areas for herself to actually work. And then what those billable time were. So all of those different things of what she was giving up, she was like, oh my Lanta, this is like looking in my underwear drawer, I call it. And with those shifts, that's the income generating activities. Because if you look at something simple like where you spend your time, everyone has like downtime. And, I just call it like space time where you like in like the space cadets.
Mhm.
You don't have to have every single minute of your day to the most effective and the most peak performance. But majority of the working hours, there's so much that you can do. So with her as the example, of these shifts, we started to implement activities and priorities so that she stays in her area of expertise and we start to think all these other things like putting in a floor was not her area of expertise. um, so you don't realize it sometimes, but that time audit gives a lot away.
Mm. Putting in a floor would not be my expertise. Although I did spend the weekend painting and I kind of got into like a Zen space. It was almost like work that was relaxing because it was just so different. Um, but do you, and there's no single solution to this, but do you have recommendations or do you see systems of success for how people spend their weeks, like how they structure their time or their weeks? Is there advice that you give people around, um, the kind of cadence and flow through a week, or is it more about, hey, just look at what you're doing, and where you're laying tile, where maybe you should be focused on, something else?
I personally think it starts with audit the time. so that you have an awareness of what goes on. And then it comes into the ebbs and flows of how you want the week to set up.
Mhm.
For me, I like to start my day with the hardest thing first, and then the rest of the stuff comes after. It's so easy for those hard things to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and then they don't get done. So we end with chaos. We begin the next day with chaos. We're going to sleep with chaos. So that's how I've seen for myself successful and with them as well, because they had that awareness. I know I had that awareness, and I still do the audit of time because so quickly we can get off scheme of things and realize that we're not living up to our potential and then we want to. Just yesterday, I mean, I was out doing things. My daughter got into college. We were looking at apartments and it was so exciting. However, on Sundays, I do spend some time getting ready for the week. I had a lot less time, so my Monday was heavy. I woke up and I was like, I felt like this mountain, but I knew the mountain was there because I didn't attend to what I needed to in that. So there's just like that self-acceptance of like, okay, cool. I didn't do it. Life's gonna be okay. Like nothing is falling and nothing is changing and it's okay, and not to let our mind go into stories. The people who are the most successful are the one that have the quicker comeback rates. So this morning my quicker comeback rate was, okay, great, I didn't do it, I got to get into gear quicker and see to make sure I tend to my schedule today.
Hmm. Talk more about comeback rate. That's interesting. Like how do you improve that, or how do you fire that up?
So to fire it up, it's really most clients that have that fire, they've come from something that was so heavy that they don't want to experience that heavy, that hard, and that emotional turbulence. It also could be met with a lot of financial downpour and debt. And there's a broad spectrum of things. So I'll tell a lot of this comes into my famous stories. Um, I had a client where she um, she was not meeting her schedule and she was also not attending to things. Now, one of the big things that she was ignoring, drum roll, her husband was unfaithful to her. So it took her that turbulence to actually attend to attending the calendar and helping that comeback rate be quicker so that those things didn't hurt. Now, a different client of mine, I call it the pre-game warnings. She's like, I want to get into gear. So sometimes people are just so unconscious around that, or they're not able to be quicker. They see it, but jumping into it is a whole different thing. So I'm the type of person, once I see it, I call it like my flip the script method of where I was like, I don't want that again. How am I going to flip the script that I don't feel that again?
Yeah.
So the quicker comeback rate comes with how badly do you want to win? How badly do you want success? Do you want to just continue in the stories? Do you want the stories to run you? Or your quicker comeback rate can really help you shine and move to a whole different level.
Hmm. So one big portion of that, if I'm hearing you correctly, is looking at hard things.
And doing one hard thing at a time. Yeah, absolutely. Because the quicker comeback rate is usually from something hard, which is usually from something that is out of our comfort zone.
Mhm.
So let's say, like this client who I already talked about, out of her comfort zone was to attend to what she knew was going on in her marriage. Another client was she was accruing tax debt and she wasn't opening it up. So when you look at the hard, that's usually, but sometimes things are just going on and you want to accomplish more. Like, let's just talk about people where it's not hard. So for me, it's not as hard anymore because I already did a lot of the work, but the work doesn't end. Entrepreneurship is a journey. So for me, I love accomplishments. I love attending to my goals and knowing that I could accomplish.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know if I said this story already, but my daughter, she got into college and really guiding her and making sure that she stayed in her dreams of getting into an accredited program around architecture was a big thing for me. Bringing my examples of life into her, that she saw that possible. So that shift of hard and now seeing it through another generation is a whole different way of living. So there's so many different ways that we can look at this. It could be from the hard, it could be from abundance and prosperity, it could be from health, where you want to lose weight, tone up, or just be less draggy and more energetic. It really depends on what you want, but it can meet you wherever you are. Sometimes you want to do the energetic stuff before the hard, but it really goes into priorities. That's what I say is like what's staring you at the face the most. For me
Mhm.
lately, it was my daughter, helping her and guiding her that she got into these programs. Not only did she get in, she got in like more than the max of scholarships to really, and I was like, wow.
That's awesome. Congratulations to her and to you.
Thank you.
That's a
Thank
lot of
you.
work. So
Yeah.
part of it is energy management too, and part of it is, um, staring the hard thing down, but also like maybe your approach to getting the hardest thing done first is because otherwise we spend so much time and energy and the interest that goes along with that time and energy that of just avoiding it, simply like not looking it in the eye and dealing with it.
Totally. Because just doing the hard for 5 minutes, just to start that hard for 5 minutes, you don't realize like how much more of like the sergeant type you're gonna get done without that whole drain of avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
And when you actually attend things that way of like, okay, let me break it down into that 5 minutes. Once I've taught clients to really like just attend the heart for 5 minutes, you now open the muscle. You got that muscle to operate and now to have breathing room. Could go into 6 minutes. Sometimes they're courageous and then they just dive in. But once you attend that hard for 5 minutes and put the timer. I'll be honest with you, I used to do that
Hmm.
because or else at the end of the day, my daughter will tell you I love to win. So I'm going to say it here on this. I love to win. So that idea at the end of the day, I wasn't going to win. Wasn't great. So I would put the timer.
And just
And
do the
those
difficult, just do the hard thing for 5 minutes, and then yeah, and then it's done, or at least you're into it, and then it's not the scary fear of what could potentially be if I try to do this hard thing.
right.
Yeah. What's like step back a layer from that. It's very interesting to be like, this is going to be a funny question, but I hope I communicate the way that I'm thinking about it, which is, tell me about your world perspective, like your life perspective. Like what are the tenets of abundance and fear and doing hard things? Like where does all that come from? It seems like there's something bigger there.
I love that question, and I like the way you framed it a lot. So I'll say it for me, and then hopefully it answers and it resonates for everybody in a lot of different ways. So for me, when I was small, I always thought money was hard. You had to work hard, and you always had to work more and harder. And I thought that was the way of life. So what I was doing, I made choices that way. Until one day when it really started to incapacitate me and have a lot of physical pain, where that physical pain was overtaking me, and I wasn't showing up to my kids or myself, where I was like, I can't pretend and show up this way anymore. Like it's just not cool. So the tenets of abundance, honestly, it's different for everybody. For me, it used to be like I had an obsession around pocketbooks. I had an obsession around gorgeous shoes. I still have that stuff, but I don't dip into that anymore. For me now, mine is more of um, recurring income. It's more of passive income where my knowledge and wealth of information is in terms of more people and impact that I can have, and also generational wealth. My daughter now, I was able to help her in a larger way in a private program for college versus when I was younger, I thought it was only about going to CUNY, which is where I went. It's not the end of the world, but at the end of CUNY versus, let's say, a private program, what does it offer? And what does it offer your major? So, my bigger one, for instance, he now has a lot of the skills. He's almost 21, and he opened up in college his own um, computer business. So, for me, it's more about that because I came from the hard growing up that if I want to take a day off, if I want to take a week off, I can do it without guilt. I can go on holiday next week. My business can still run and not feel like everything is tumbling down.
Hmm.
So it also goes into, the basic food, clothing, and shelter in a lot
Yeah.
of ways that's where it starts.
Yeah.
And my client, for instance, this morning, like she said to me, I don't want to wake up feeling like I have to or should. So a lot of those common themes and patterns that come, that's your tenants. That's your area to grow and to work on. For me, it was around money was hard. It should be hard.
Hmm.
So I made choices around the should being hard. However, now that I learned, I don't, people are going to be a little bit crazy about this, but making money is easy. It's easy when you know where it's coming from, your area of expertise, who's your ideal client, and you go there where they hang out. It's really that simple. Go more where your ideal client hangs out, talk to them, and then more will come. I had a client just on Friday. She was like, this process like really works. Can we just shut it down for a few days? She was like, they're just coming in from everywhere. She goes, this alignment. She's like, it's from here, it's from there. It's like, she was like, oh my God. She was like, can we just shut it down? And I was like, huh, what do you want to do? It's not my decision. Give them the tools and they grow. So for her, it was about, it was more of like an encompassing of her skills that built this practice of hers for growth in mental health that now the clients are coming that way versus just her therapy type session of her specialty. A different client of mine, when he came on, his intellectual assets were like just something that like he literally had on the shelf. But now what he did was he really had ideas on making it an impact for generations. So for him, he started to pay his daughter's medical bills,
Mm.
which was like he can do it with the blink of an eye and not think twice. He could still pay his bills, still pay his taxes. If he wanted to go, which is obviously not appropriate, but go on shoes and pocketbooks and all of these things, whatever floats your boat. But those thoughts of what people want, for me, if I want to take a week off or a day off, I know what I need to do to get there. My formula, so that my wealth formula is still operating. It's not
Hmm.
only of like manning the desk.
Yeah. I came from that mindset of money is hard or impossible, or just, for other people, it's not even in the cards. And there is an aspect of, food and clothing and shelter and those basic bedrock needs that everyone deserves and that not everyone has, of course, so there is that. But you remind me of one of my favorite things that I think is attributed to Albert Einstein, which is a quote around like one of the most important things you have to do in life, and this is paraphrased, is deciding whether or not this is a safe world, and that's a hard question. And I don't always know how to answer that, but it seems like you come from a place where, taking money for as an example, like money is not out to get you. Money is not, your enemy. It's not something that has to be difficult even. It's about understanding the systems and understanding the world and the way it works. And as I'm rambling, maybe that's part of Einstein's little point is like, um, we just need to understand more. And once we understand the systems and the processes, then we can use those to our advantage in ways that are good.
Totally. So to tie this together, I was the similar with you. I thought wealth was for other people, it wasn't for me. I didn't grow up wealthy at all. And if anything, right now, everything I have is like, it was literally from my back. And understanding if this world is safe, you got to create it in a safe way of how to attend to it. And what's not is seeing why you feel that way. But totally, with what you said, it totally makes sense. And I also say, um, understanding the processes and systems, it actually goes into what I was saying, just to bring this all together around income generating activities and growing it, is that when you see where your money is coming from, that's your source. It's like, it's truly that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that, you realize you're getting that energy exchange. Money is just an energy exchange. So somebody wants what you have more than that money. That's what they're really saying. And
Hmm.
if they say no, they're saying no to themselves. They're not saying no to you, assuming that you gave them the right value and all the things and the gifts of yourself. But that's really what it's about.
That's
You know,
fascinating. Keep
which
going.
part?
Yeah. Oh, the money is an energy exchange.
Because, if, for instance, if I buy something from you, if I buy for the conference, I don't want the money. I want to be at the conference of what you're giving, that value that's there. This shirt, the shirt that you're wearing, I want that more than the money that I have. I'm making a decision. It's a conscious choice.
So there's constantly a flow in and out, though. There's like an energy flow around that. It's one of the things that gets me so excited about blockchain and cryptocurrency. Quite honestly, I mean, maybe you have an opinion about this. Not that we don't need the guardrails around all of it, but the idea of the word currency as electricity and the idea of the word currency as money, or fiat. So the silos that it feels like money has been trapped in, unlocking that energy to flow around the world in more fair ways, or in more, not fair but accessible ways, where everyone can tap into the energy of it.
Think about, actually, sorry to tap in here, but exactly, to tap into it. If you think about it, right here, right where you are listening to this, think about all the buildings around you. Think about the stores. Think about what you have access to. All of the social media. Money is flowing all over the place. We just got to tap into it.
Mm-hmm,
Think
mm-hmm,
about an ocean flowing. It's just tapping into it. So why would it come to you if you're angry? It's kind of like you're going, "Arr," and it's going, "Arr," back.
mm-hmm.
But if you're like, "Hey, what's up?"
Equal and opposite reactions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if
Yeah.
like, "Hey, what's up?" Yeah, what's up? Like, it's just totally like, it's like if you go on a date, are you going to go show up with that energy, or are you going to come with like, "Hi," you know, that little flirty attitude
Yeah.
or the handsome attitude, depending on who's listening to this, right?
Yeah.
So if you have that intimate connection with it, I always say the more I sit here and try to make clients happen, the more money I make. And the more I listen than talk. That's another thing too. And the more you listen versus talking, you hear what they want. It could be you don't want to give them what they want, which is totally fine. That's your no client.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are there for you and are paying you, when you listen more, that's what's going to come to you more.
Mm-hmm.
And again, everything around you, if you think about it, like the buildings, the stores, all of these things, people need the services. It's out there. It's just that, are you ready, and what's in your way? And whatever is in your way, just take one thing at a time and do that 1%. Or if 1% feels like a lot, then tell yourself 1 inch or
Mm-hmm.
2 inches, just to do something every day or every week.
Yeah. It's Now that's a system I love and get behind, is like incremental marginal improvement. And you've talked about it a couple times now. And thinking in real time here, it's it has to be one of the reasons why education is so powerful, is because we get to see into the physics of it all, into the inner workings and the mechanics of it all. But my goal is, to stay in shape, have some muscle mass, avoid falls later in life. Like, there's a few reasons for that. And so I just do push-ups and it's kind of a complex compound movement. So it doesn't take any weights or anything. And I try to add one per session, one push up,
Mhm.
and it's like, but you
There
look
you go.
back since November and it's like 100% gains, like, because it's like, just one every few days, it adds up, it compounds.
That's the thing. Incremental change over time. That's the change, my friends. That's really where it is. If I were telling my clients all of a sudden, just implement and you haul this whole system, it's a culture shock. It's just going
Yeah.
to be like, click, Margo. My payments won't go through.
Mhm.
They're not going to make that.
Yeah.
But those incremental shifts, it just feels more subtle and it builds on itself.
Yeah.
Information leaves clues. Clues are your leads to your next steps. Like if you find yourself asking where your next step is, what are you looking to do? The area you're avoiding. That's what you need to do. And just take that one next step. Information leaves clues. And I do those incremental steps on purpose because it could be those 10 steps and the first 4 are good and 6 are underrated. And those 6 that are underrated need curation to get to the home run. But
Mhm.
that's okay because now the home run is in a whole different way and it's probably a whole lot better.
Yeah, the what is it? The cave you fear holds the treasure you seek. I think that's
I love your sayings.
maybe it's not mine. The smart ones are all somebody else. Kind of a hero's journey thing. But yeah, right. It's like that thing that you're fearing. It could be just the like step 4 of cracking into it, walking into it, and then not only do you overcome your fear or you act brave enough for the moment at hand, but that's where the treasure is. Like that's where the wins are.
Get someone also, get a coach because they're going to lead you to the
Totally.
garden versus the dirt.
Hmm.
And yes, it costs money, but look at it as education. Like as if you would pay for college or graduate school or all these other programs. Consider it your education to business. Consider it your education to lead to a journey where you've never been before. I had a client who told me that if she could pay me, that means she could do it on her own. And I was like, okay.
Hmm.
She came back and she was like, please let me help. Please get my help. I need your help. And I was like, okay, but what did you learn in that?
Hmm.
And not only with a coach can you get to that garden, it's also going to be quicker without the dirt, less painful. Like we're talking about all these hards. Why do you want the hard?
Hmm.
Think about like if you close your eyes and if you think about that hard that you're holding every day, if you let go of the hard, when the garbage men come, can we just give it to them? Do you ever think about the garbage that the garbage men take? No. You're like, bye bye. Like somebody asked me what day my garbage men come. I don't know because we have curbside service here. I don't even think about it.
Hmm.
I don't need to. And he's like, how do you not know? I'm like, again, it's curbside. Like he was just like in this unawareness. So if you sit there and you remove the hard, so much more is open and possible.
Hmm. Hmm. That's beautiful. Um, that's great. We were it's funny. You and I were both worried, I think a little bit. I'll speak for myself, like a little bit worried since we recorded it before and I ruined it. Like is this conversation going to be just as good or
I
better
was
or
worried.
worse? What?
I was worried too.
Yeah, okay. So we both were a little bit. And
Let's
it's
just say
just
what it is.
it's even more delightful. It's even
Good. I
better.
appreciate that.
It's like I feel like I know you more and I can't wait to share it out with the audience. Before we wrap, though, one question which is always fun. I don't always get it in, but I'd love to hear, which is something you're reading or listening to. It could be a record or a podcast or a book or anything like that. Is there one thing that you either love or you're reading now or taking in now, content wise?
There's this book of don't oh goodness don't negotiate in between something like I forget the name of the book. Oh shoot. um
Don't
but
split the difference.
don't split the difference.
Yeah, book titles always escape me, but that one found me for some reason. Yeah, don't split the
Yeah,
difference.
so my coach recommended it and I have not been able to put it down and it really taught me a lot. And there's some stuff that he gave me around it. I was like, wow, this really took me for a whirl. And I would say it's a great book. Um, I would say though the book Deep Work also is good because that helps you learn yourself and how to align your schedule. That helped me know that I needed to do the hard work in the morning
Mm,
and let's say calls with clients or potential clients midday. I was realizing it was their best and my best. But this book that we were talking about, there's so much to gain there, like from a higher negotiating skills. I'm finding in the mental health also is that a lot of people are on exit strategy, learning how to sell the business. A lot of people are feeling that they can't. Some people came to me when they were really wanting to close down. Um, so now what I've done was I revamped my process to show people from the beginning till the end, instead of just waiting for people to be open to that.
mm,
So I'm actually working with somebody on that complete journey. It's so cool to see it, honestly. Um, and for her, like she was trying to shrink. This is such a cool story. I must say this. She was trying to shrink into a model in the mental health industry. It was like annoying me
mm.
that doesn't even fit the mental health industry right now. But because so many people are doing it, she thought that's where she needed
Yep.
to be. And her practice is beyond her, but she didn't have somebody who knew taxes that could help her with what she was doing because it's an empire. So it's just really cool to watch it happen for her because she's so open to the coaching and the implementing and all of this. She's in our growth package, and I have a few clients like this now, and just to see the whole process, it's just fun. I love seeing people win too,
Yeah.
and the process win because if something happened, I just curate the process.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I only had that book title, Don't Split the Difference, in mind because it's one of those books that I have a resistance to reading. And every time
Mm.
I find a book like that, once I crack it open and get into it, it's like one of the best books I've ever had. I don't know how I know that, but I definitely need to read it now. I haven't read it,
Thank you for helping me on that.
but it's like do the hard thing and open that book. Um, so much more we could talk about, but where do people find you to keep the conversation going on social media? What channels do you like and website and all that? Give us the links.
So just use my name, Margo Masri. So the website, you could go to Heartfelt CFO and Tax Services.com, or if you remember my name, Margo Masri, it'll also reroute to our site. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I would love and excited to hear from you through DM, comment on our posts, and I'd be happy to help you no matter where you are on the journey.
Awesome. Well, Margo, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for coming on twice. That's very nice of you. And I'm glad to get the chance to chat. And this is going to be great for our audience too. So thanks so much.
My pleasure. I was looking forward. Thanks for having me today. Talk soon.